guys. So welcome to the fifth edition of What's the Scene Hangouts. Today, we're going to be talking to the amazing, the soulful, the beautiful Mali or Maalavika Manoj. Hey, Mali.
Hey, what's up?
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very good, very good. Really nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, yeah.
Really nice seeing you. I remember I saw you nearly 12 to 15 years ago performing in inter-school competitions
Oh,
like
wow.
in
Which
Church
which
Park and
one?
stuff. I
Which
think
church?
it was in Church Park and in BBM.
Oh, wow, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so it's really nice to see you get where you are today from there. So how did it all start then?
Thank you. Yeah, you could say so. I mean, it kind of started in school even before culturals were a thing. They would have Teachers' Day performances and annual days and inter-house culturals and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we would compete or, put up like a silly play or a musical or something, and then I would sing. So it started off then, and then, culturals obviously were one step ahead of that. And then from there on, there was Band Hunt, and then we actually started doing shows, like actual shows, which was a big deal then. So yeah, I mean, it's good. Like when you look back, it's like all those things, all those steps were necessary to kind of understand how things work. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
Yeah, you
school? Which
can.
school were you in?
I was in DAV Velicherry, so
Oh,
we would
okay.
participate in a lot of cultures as well. I guess it's like an amazing space to test the waters, to see like how you work with your talent. How did you start writing songs when you were in school, and when did that all begin?
Yeah, I think 11th standard is when I wrote my first proper song. Till then, I was writing poetry. I used to write like a couple of poems every year. And my aim was to get at least one of my poems published in the school magazine for that year. Then I think this November 2009 was when I wrote my last poem and my first song. So it was like that month was the exact transition between my poetry writing and my songwriting. And the first song I ever wrote was about my mom. But it wasn't about my mom, but it was about a fight I had with my mom. It was an apology song. And I
Oh,
mean, now that I look back on it, it's pretty cheesy and like indulgent. But then, at that time, it was like, oh wow, you can actually write a song. And do you write the lyrics yourself and compose? And I was like, why, yes, I did. I did both. And it was like a concept that a lot of people didn't fully understand. Like, because I think in India, you're most likely to hear of lyricists and then composers. But the idea of a singer-songwriter who does everything is still a newish concept, was still a newish concept then. So yeah, it's good. We've come a long way.
yeah. I guess we're finding a lot more singer-songwriters now. There's so much beauty in the songwriting process.
Yeah,
Where do you
definitely.
draw your inspiration from?
There's no like one place, huh? I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't write one kind of song, or I don't write about just one theme. I like to kind of just spread it up a little bit and keep it interesting for me, because otherwise I'm super distracted. I lose interest sometimes. So I need to make sure whatever happens, I'm engaged in the process. So yeah, like
Beautiful.
sometimes it's, I think off late I've been taking a very third person angle to the whole songwriting thing, like writing a more narrative approach to something rather than like a you this or a me this, like a first or second person. So yeah, I think that's usually fun. Sometimes when I get stuck with the songwriting process, I'll change the person. Like, if I'm writing in first person, then I'll change to the third, and then sometimes I get more ideas and yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, beautiful. I didn't know that like there are so many different approaches you take to songwriting, and I guess you kind of start discovering that as and when you write.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like you complement your music with the piano and the guitar, and does that help you with your singing, and how do you kind of like strike a balance between the instruments and your vocals?
Um, as in terms of like when I perform or
Yeah,
when.
when you perform, or like, do you use the instruments as a way to write your songs? Even do they sing a different
Yeah,
song for you? Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Like I used to write more with the guitar, but of late I think I've been using the keys more. The piano is definitely an instrument I'm more comfortable with because I started with the piano. So when I visualize music and where things are, I close my eyes and I can see a piano. For me, the guitar is still like it's a different thing. That said, though, I think the songs you write on a guitar and the songs you write on the piano are very different. Like there's more chances that you'll come up with something rhythmic when you write with the guitar, and there's more chances that you'll have a more interesting flow of melody and chords with the piano. I know this is just me. People might feel differently about it, but for me, it is the case.
Okay, yeah, it's nice to get different opinions. You also been performing with really wonderful musicians like Tejas and Jahangir, and how has the collaborative process been like?
Well, I mean, so now, JJ and Stuart and my band, we've been together for since 2016. So that's what, 4 years now. And we have like this understanding, like our vocabulary, our kind of vibe, everything is sorted right now. There's somewhat of a streamlining to our process of arranging songs. So I'll come in with a song and I'll be like, I have this thing and it goes like this, and I'll play it either on the keys or the guitar, and we'll sit together and arrange it. So JJ will be like, I think this is a cool groove, and then we're very used to like telling the other person like, hey, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should change this around, because then I can play this, and then it's a cool collaborative process. So then I get the best of being solo as well as having a band, and that's always nice because I think when you're a solo artist, you often miss out on that band vibe. Like I miss that sometimes when you
Yeah.
just sit together and you write something. And there's like an equal stake in a way. But yeah, there's definitely many upsides to being solo that way, which is just less conflict of interest and more control, and less, you can kind of go at your own pace in a way.
Yeah, yeah, the best of both worlds is something else. Definitely kind of
Yeah.
changes, elevates like music in different ways. Throughout all of this, like your journey with your bands, well, singing solo, to even start off as being a full-time musician, I feel like every musician has sort of this aha moment when they discover their sound of sorts. So I don't know how true is that. So can you
I
tell
don't
me?
have. I've never had that moment though, because I've never like heard a thing that I've made and been like, oh, this is my sound. That I just put it down to, this is a part of my sound. Like I said, I find it very difficult to write one particular kind of style. I mean, they're all pop songs, but then it's like even pop is such a wide gamut of different subgenres. So, like, yeah, there's some of my songs are slightly more classic pop sounding, some are a little more synth pop sounding, some are a little more alt. So yeah, it keeps varying, and I like that. I like that it keeps changing. Like I said, I get
Yeah.
bored very easily. So
Yeah, and do you like sort of listen to different kinds of music as well to help you with all of this?
yeah, for sure. Like right now, my main source of new artist discovery is my Spotify Discover Weekly. So I think because I've been tuning into it and like using it so much that it's kind of understood what I like and don't like. So maybe 8 out of 10 times it'll throw me a recommendation that I do like. So yeah.
Amazing.
And then I'll
Who?
go in and listen to other albums by that artist, and it goes like that.
Wow. And who's your favorite for this week?
Actually, this week I've been really bad. I haven't been actively discovering anything, just because I feel like I've been watching the news more at home. I'm staying with my parents, and the news is always on.
Hmm.
And even when I'm not watching the news, my dad's always come to the room like, "Hey, did you hear about this thing?" And yeah, so I've just not been in that mind frame of like listening to new music. The last artist that I heard and really liked was Rainsford, Rainsford. She's got a song called Two Cents, which is really cool. Yeah.
Amazing. How has this whole COVID thing been for you? You're staying with your parents. Chennai is pretty bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I moved back like a month ago, roughly. And I'm really happy to be back because I'm with my family. Otherwise, there's this constant stress of, oh, how are they doing, what's happening, and just not being with them was something that stressed me out. But now that I'm back, it's good. Like, we hang out. It's quality time that I haven't spent with them in years because I've been out of my parents' place for 5 years now.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it feels like, we're getting to know each other as adults all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Yeah, my brother
Yeah.
is also here, so it's cool. And we have a bunch of cats and dogs, so that's always good.
Yeah.
Keeps us distracted.
Definitely. I'm hoping to see some new songs based on your experiences, like at home.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
might just.
Ishmeet SD asks if you prefer performing live or recording in a studio.
um, it's hard to kind of choose one. I mean, I feel both are necessary. I think I miss the whole live thing a lot right now because I know it's not going to come back for a while. Studio, at least I know that it's within my reach if I want to have that experience. And I've also been trying my hand at producing at home, so I don't miss it as much. But live, I do. I miss. I've almost forgotten what it's like to get up on stage and plan like a gig and get people to come and plan a set list and all of that. I have no idea when I'm going to be doing that again. No one really knows. But yeah, I think right now I miss that more.
Oh, it's yeah, I'd say it must be difficult, but I hope like we weather the storm and we're
Yeah.
back to this at least next year. Which kind of brings me to my next question, really. Like, you played in really huge venues like NH7, and you played in small and intimate spaces as well. What do you enjoy most about both of them?
The intimate space is obviously for the reason that it's intimate. I mean, just because it's a little more intimidating, actually. Even though it's a smaller audience, I feel like people think, oh, it's a smaller audience, it's a smaller venue, it's less stress. But actually, it's probably more stressful to play to a smaller audience because I don't know, is you feel like people can see into your soul. I don't know.
Yeah.
With a larger venue, there's a lot more to distract from you. Like there's lights, there's visuals, there's a stage, there's the experience of obviously being there with a whole lot of other people. So it's a different vibe. Well, obviously, you can move a lot more around the stage. You can perform. When a smaller venue doesn't allow you for that. So your performance is more to do with channeling the emotion and telling a story and really making that deep connect with your audience. And it's very likely that if you're having a bad day, people are going to pick up on that much easier than if you were playing to a large audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's good and bad things about both.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah, small places kind of bring like a vulnerability.
Yeah, exactly.
The yeah.
And for me,
Yeah.
I actually enjoy that because when I go to watch an artist that I like, I feel like I get to see them in their real light. I understand them as people first before they're artists because every time we listen to artists, we have this preconceived notion of what kind of person they are, what their vibe is, how they talk, how they interact. But it's very different when you're in the room with a person, and
Yeah.
yeah, people are
Yeah.
different. The music is very different from the people that they are.
Yeah. Mohit Mohita says you see faces in a smaller audience, which
Yeah, you see faces, you see body language. Like, you know that you're not keeping their attention if, you start seeing people are fidgeting and
yeah.
getting distracted. Then you feel like a class teacher sometimes, you're like, oh shit, I need to bring this back somehow. But at the same time, like you can even see, like if you're playing something or you said something that's touching, you can actually see people tearing up. You can actually, you can see people laugh. You can feel the reactions of people more than just see it. So it's
Yeah,
it's great.
amazing. Thank you for that. Um, Kai Gurung asks what your songwriting process usually is like.
Don't have one process, but like I'll usually get a seed, like I'll get an idea, which is just like one line or one melody. And like, okay, that could fit well in a song. Then I think rhythm first, so I'll think of what rhythm or what tempo would fit. And then I'll try and work with that. And then I'll start with one line and then I'll try and find the second line, like 2 points. And then from there, I'll try and find out what the song is trying to be, you know, because sometimes a song writes itself. You don't know. You have like one line and you don't know where it's going to take you. But then as you keep exploring, you understand, oh, this is talking about this aspect of my life. I can draw from this thing. Like you start thinking about personal things that you can draw from and relate to. And yeah, you kind of go from there. And sometimes it works pretty quickly. Sometimes you write a song in less than an hour. Sometimes you put down a few ideas, give it a few days, come back to it. Sometimes it could even take you like months to write one song. That's just how it is. But you have to keep trying.
That's some really useful advice because I know a lot of people kind of get lost. They want to write songs and they don't know where to
Yeah,
start from. So thank you so much for that and very much appreciate it.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah, I just going to deviate from this topic a little slightly. I recently came across your crowdsourced video, Age of Limbo, and it was a really cool concept. How did you think about this and how did you go about with it?
Okay, so I'm a big fan of constraints. Every time you're trying to make something or like do something, people see constraints and restrictions as an obstacle, but I think constraints actually make your job easier. And in this case, the constraint was not being able to go out and shoot a video. To which I was like, okay, we have to figure out a way to make a video because there are obviously people shooting videos, and then there are obviously people who need them. We need to find a way to get in touch with people who actually are making the video content. It just so happened that at that time I was reaching out to people and asking them how they're doing, and people would send me pictures, video clips saying, wow, look at how empty my street is. This festival that was supposed to happen is cancelled, and look at this empty space. So that got me thinking about how right now we're living in a world of empty spaces. Like even Times Square has no one. So I reached out to a bunch of people and I said, hey, if you do have any video clips or if you'd like to shoot something, this is the format that I'm looking for, like a landscape format and the FPS and HD and all of that. And then I put up an Insta story, and I really didn't expect too many video entries or anything. And then, yeah, in a few weeks' time, friends of friends, family, people who are actually drone operators, I managed to get in touch with them, and they sent me a bunch of clips that they just shot or they went out and shot. And yeah, we actually had way more footage than we needed, so we were able to get a really good edit out of it. Jishnu Guha, he's someone who helped me with the edit, and he's actually the
Wow.
director of my previous video, Mango Showers, and an amazing songwriter himself. So literally, that was it. We got a bunch of footage and we edited it, and that was the video.
Amazing. Like the simple things can make such a huge difference. And yeah, there's so much beauty in empty spaces.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, your videos, the rest of your videos are amazing as well.
thank you.
Hats off to the production and the whole team that worked on it. Um,
We fully DIY it, like fully.
wow.
If you speak to Christian Jishnu, they'll tell you like at every point of time, I don't have like huge budgets or anything, but we'll really plan and figure out a way to make sure it is effective at the same time, not over the top. and I think it's important to, do something that's worth it.
Yeah. Mali was the first performance on the first so far I attended, so I really like my introduction to the intimate concert and indie musician scene. It was truly magical.
Hey, thanks, man. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Uh,
that was my granddad actually. That was the time that we performed together. I had
oh
him
wow.
come to the show and play the harmonica solo on this song of mine called "Play." And before the gig, he was so stressed because he hasn't played a gig in like what 60 years. So he was like, rehearsing his part. My dad, followed him to the toilet, and he was like rehearsing in the toilet as well. He was like, oh, let me get my part. So he was really nervous about it, but he killed it in the end. And
Wow.
that was his first like proper gig since the 50s probably. So it felt good to give him that opportunity to, yeah,
Wow. That connection is beautiful to have your family with you and your grandfather, and it must have been
yeah,
one hell of an experience for you as well.
for sure, for
Like,
sure. It was a bucket list kind of thing.
yeah. Any tips to someone who's starting out as an independent artist? A very good question.
Stay as original as possible. I mean, there's a tendency for a lot of people to kind of it's important to be influenced and inspired by artists. Don't get me wrong, but relying too heavily on what is trending and what is cool and hip in terms of like even identity, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of sound, it can be an easy win in the temporary, in the short run, but then in the long run it's more important that you carve your own identity and you push that. So I think a lot of people tend to get into this zone of I'm trying to be like this artist, or I'm inspired very heavily by one artist. Cool, but maybe you should be inspired by several artists and then come to the midpoint of all of those rather than being a version of one artist. Does that make
Wha-
sense? Sorry, I'm like,
No, of course.
um, but sometimes you hear an artist, you hear someone's music, and you're like, oh, this sounds like so and so else. But your idea is to sound like yourself. As cliched as that sounds, try and make it yours. Like even if you're doing one specific subgenre, make it yours. Do your take of it. What
Yeah.
makes this a you song and not someone else's song? I think that's something to think about. Yeah.
Exactly. And that makes all the difference. Like you've given some beautiful, just want to quote you. You said, let the song write itself and let there be a
Man,
version of you in your song, which is
I
very
sound so
beautiful.
farty when I say stuff like that, but it's actually the truth. Like,
Yeah.
you have to kind of, because when I say let the song write itself, there's a part of your subconscious that already knows what the song wants to be. But it has to come to the fore of your mind for you to
Yeah.
actually continue writing.
Yeah.
So it's really just bringing it out from your subconscious to your conscious mind and writing. Yeah.
Exactly. How do you deal with people who say don't like your music or like in an open space?
I just don't care. So simple as that, man. I mean, obviously, there are people who are going to like your music and there are people who don't like your music. And by trying to impress everyone, you're going to impress no one. So you rather focus on the people who like your music and give them more stuff that they like than, focus on trying to expand to the group of people who don't like your music because that they're always going to exist. Honestly, there are people who love some of my songs and hate some of my songs. It's the same people. But that's completely normal. Like even my mom there's this one song of mine that she doesn't like. I won't mention the name. But every time I call her for a gig, she'll be like, okay, but don't play that song. And I'm like, Mom, you can't dictate my set list like this. It's okay. So and she's my mom and she tells me honestly. But yeah, so it's gonna happen. Like even your mom might not like your music, but that's
Yeah.
okay. There are people who will.
Yeah. As long as music brings in some emotions in
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
What is the one gig you can never forget and why?
My first NH7 weekend.
Yeah.
So it was at Shillong, and I was playing an acoustic set with Tejas. Shout out to Tejas if he's here. But we were playing an acoustic version of one of my songs, Rush. And there's like a musical interlude in between the song where it's just like before the song kicks in again, is when there was a genset surge and like all the power went off, like the PAs went off. So the only thing that was playing were like the amps and stuff on stage. And it was literally me singing and Tejas playing the electric. So it was, oh, I was playing keys, he was playing the electric, and I was singing. And just at that interlude, the genset surges and everything goes off except the amp on stage, and my mic is off. And Tejas goes, he's constantly he's still playing, and he looks at me, he's like, keep it going. And I was like, keep what going? I have nothing. And I mean, it was all of it happened in all of like maybe 10-15 seconds. Then he goes up to the back, cranks up the amp on stage, and he just continues playing. And he just like signals to me, like, keep it going. And, I think the audience also picked up on the fact that everything was off on the outside, and they were just watching us to see how we would deal with that situation. And I don't know, like, it's a miracle, the timing of it, but the PA came back on at the exact second that I went back in to sing. I just took a chance. I was like, I'm just going to try. And it came back on in that second, and everybody lost their minds. Like, we thought we were like heroes or something, but it was cool. It was a good moment. Like, I've never felt more scared and relieved and kicked emotionally than I did that day on stage. Never forget that.
Wow. And that was your
Yeah.
first weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. So I just want like shift to this conversation to a slightly more important turn, in the sense that you're such a huge inspiration for all the women out there. And I saw the no, definitely you are. And
Okay.
I saw the International Women's Day video that you put up with a couple of other brilliant musicians. Um, and like what were the challenges you faced, and how was it as a female to come up in this industry?
But I think it's still a very male-dominated industry, if you call it an industry. It's the independent scene is still very much a scene. We're growing it into an industry, and hopefully in the next few years we will. That said, I think I read a statistic that Amit Gurbaksani posted, which is, he's like a really amazing journalist. You should follow him. He says that 6% of the indie scene are actually women. Not even 10, 6%. So that's less than 10, like one of every, 20 people is a female? That's insane. And I mean, of course, I have a lot of friends like Kamakshi and Arifa and, females in the scene. But if you really think about the scene as a whole, we're a minority. And I think a lot of that has to do with, when you start off and you have to play gigs and you have to go out and spend hours at night at a venue, sometimes at rehearsals. Not everyone's folks are okay with that. And that's just a thing that has to change culturally in India, Parents are more likely to allow their sons to go out for jams and spend the night somewhere else, or stay up and, go for gigs and come back. For women, it's still a big challenge. Like, I remember even when I started playing gigs, I think it was like my grandfather was like, why do you want to go and sing in bars? Like, what kind of women sing in bars? Full disclosure, that was the thinking back then. This is like 10, 12 years ago. And I get it, because obviously, 30, 40 years ago, it was very different. Like, musicians who had to perform had contracts with hotels. They would go and play like a weekly set. And that was how it was. Like, there was no independent scene. There was no like independent gigs. None of that had ever come into the picture just yet. So I think that's a big obstacle for women getting into music, is really just getting that first line of permission and acceptance to even go out there and do it. So people like me, we're actually privileged that way. Like, my folks really support the fact that I do music. They always have. That said, though, like, I think it will change. I feel like in these past few years, I've seen far more women producers, instrumentalists, songwriters, singers. I mean, tons of singers, all coming in to the scene. And the more people we have in the industry, the more of an industry it's going to be. So I think doors wide open to all the women who want to become indie musicians. Definitely,
Yeah.
we need more. We need more of our kind.
Definitely. To everyone out there, please tell your women friends that we need more of you. Don't be afraid of being heard, and just go out there. Um,
Definitely.
my next question was going to be on how do you increase the female representation in the overall music scene, but you beautifully touched on that. So thank you. Uh,
it's
yeah.
still a it's still a big thing that has to change culturally, like it has to change from a household, just basic thinking level onwards, and that takes
Yeah.
a long time to change, probably even generations. But
Yeah.
it will. I'm positive that it will. I was just reading up about this biker candida. She rode from India, from Bangalore all the way to Australia.
Wow.
She rode, okay? And this is the time where, I mean, even in my family, owning a bike or being able to ride a bike is like, oh, it's dangerous, it's risky. So for someone like her to have ridden across several countries over weeks, probably even months, is insane. But it's not that it's not happening. You see, like, even she would have had to face certain challenges. So I think everybody has to fight that fight if you got to push the boundaries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I guess like it's great to have encouragement. So this is the time you get out, be heard, and see where it goes from there.
indeed.
Um, and moving to like India, how what is your opinion on increasing the global representation of Indian indie artists?
I think obviously in India, indie music is bottlenecked. I won't lie. The vast majority of people in India, I mean, of course, you can play the numbers game and say, oh, even if 1% of the country listens to indie music, that's a large number. Sure, but we're not even at 1% yet. That's for sure. I think it's bottlenecked in India, and that's why a lot of indie artists have to get recognition outside and then come back and then they're more accepted. Somehow that's what works. But I feel like, very few people are actually pushing for the industry to expand in India. Like, more people to get into independent music, more people to sort of come out to gigs, listen to other artists. And I've seen that happen to a few people where, they'd come for a gig because a friend dragged them along, or they had nothing else to do, and then they'd come and really enjoy it, and then they'd go back home, listen to music of that artist, and they'd discover other artists, they'd go for other gigs, and that's how it has to happen. So the more people we get into independent music, like if now my parents listen to independent music, they have their
Yeah.
own fans, and I mean they have artists that they're fans of, and they'll go on to Spotify themselves and listen. But they may not have done that had their daughter not been an independent musician. It's like that. So we need to push from our circles. We need to make sure that people we know, our friends, our family, the people who listen to our music, listen to more independent artists. I think that's just how it's going to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And here in What's the Scene, we believe that as well. Like with globalization and with the internet, it becomes our sort of responsibility to get our music across
Yeah.
borders and do a sort of exchange cultures.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a couple of people in the audience have this question as well as to revolving around the challenges of surviving monetary wise, being a musician full time.
Right now, I have no answers to that one, because I'm trying to figure it out myself. So I moved back with my family. But yeah, I don't know. Like, let's see. There's obviously online gigs. Message to all of you artists out there, however established or new you are, don't do, live gigs for free, just because that's going to be our bread and butter for a while until actual gigs happen. So, treat that with care, make sure that there's some value to it, either there's some growth opportunities or there's something in exchange for you're doing like a live gig. And don't do too many of them, and make sure that there is some value add.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say, because otherwise there's diminishing marginal utility. I mean, I don't want to go into economics, but yeah, the more people see of you, the more gigs you do, the fewer people are going to.
Yeah.
This is just my thinking. I feel like there has to be a certain value attached to it, and if you're getting paid, that's the best. If you're not getting paid, make sure there's something in it for you.
Definitely.
Because this is work. This is our careers. This is what we do, and you have to be very particular about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of musicians resonate with this idea as well. And as the COVID situation keeps increasing, it becomes more imperative to not do stuff for free.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if we're living in a time where there were other revenue sources for most people, well and good, no problem. Then you can treat this as promo. But it's not that time. We have literally nothing else. And I get a ton of messages from people saying, "Oh, this is for a cause. This is for charity. This is to lift people's state of minds." I get it. I'm all for it. But then, there has to be something in it for the artist as well. Like, we also need to make money. We also need to have some form of revenue coming in. This is my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for that.
Explain the process of recording your own music. How does it go, and how to go about it if we're doing it for the first time? Okay. Step one, demo a lot. Make lots of demos. Know exactly what you're going to record before you go in and record. Unless it's something as simple as you playing the guitar, the keys, and, putting it out there. Work with people who you trust and who don't step on your feet. That's a very important lesson I had to learn early in life, is to work with people who don't try and tell you that their ideas are better for your music. At the end of the day, you have to have control of your own ideas. You need to make sure that you make the final sign off on anything and everything. So make sure you work with people who you trust and people who respect your opinions. So definitely do that. Don't get caught up working with a producer who thinks they're the greatest and then, just disses you and makes a full mess of your work. Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind Mango Showers? I'm always amazed at the chord choices and the lyrics.
How much time do you have?
We can take 5 more minutes.
No. It's a way longer explanation. But in a nutshell, I mean, Mango Showers came from a place of really, talking about the death of a friend of mine. And he died under very questionable circumstances. A few of my friends who were on this knew him. And it was just a warning sign to a lot of other artists who take, who get approached by, say, big labels or people who promise them a lot and actually just leave them in the dirt. So be careful. There are lots of these people around there. It's not just something that happens in movies. There are people who are willing to extract every bit of, your rights and your identity and your time and all of that and give you nothing in exchange. So be careful. They exist. Go through your contracts. Make sure you get good advice and be safe. So the song is about that.
I guess there are a lot of things that are built in that song.
It's if I talk about it, we'll need like 2 more hours.
But no, it's a beautiful song. I listen to it a lot myself. Very touching. All right. I guess that's the end of our beautiful 45-minute session. We packed in a lot of insights. Thank you so much for everything you said.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.